What's up, everyone? John Manson for Seer Red. Back again this week with another update. A little bit of a short week as we had our last video was posted on Tuesday, I believe it was, Monday or Tuesday, just ahead of that Tuesday night game. And we're back into our normal Friday slot, which we try to do each and every week and have been doing since the summer. A little bit different content this week. Typically during football season, the last 6 or 7 weeks, we've been breaking down Liberty's upcoming opponent in the next day or two. But the Flames have 17 days between games, going back since the New Mexico State win Tuesday night and won't play again until November 1st, as there's a bye week in there, and then also transitioning from the midweek to back to Saturdays, where Liberty will play 5 straight Saturdays in the month of November, beginning November 1st against Delaware. So because of that, shorter duration between these two videos, but also our normal Seer Red podcast, which we do weekly. We're not doing this week due to the 17-day window, so between games. So typically in that podcast, we break down the previous game pretty in depth and also look ahead to the upcoming matchup. So I think for this one, we're going to kind of do let's do a little bit more of a deep dive into this last win against New Mexico State. Maybe also look at some Conference USA, championship, race standings, and an update on where things stand as we're, pretty much in the middle of the season, maybe moving to the back half of the college football season. So obviously Liberty defeated New Mexico State 30-27 Tuesday night. And it's kind of been more of what we've seen throughout the first 6 games, where Liberty has some moments where they look good, has some moments where they look pretty terrible, and then moments in between. And, it's kind of been a frustrating team to watch all season long. And you feel like, at least I feel like, they have the potential to win these games. Every game, if you look at the remaining 5 games on schedule, I don't think there's any one game that I look at and say, wow, I don't know if Liberty's going to win that game. But there's also, I don't think, any game on the schedule that you look at and say, yeah, Liberty's going to win that game pretty easily. That's just not the team that we've seen through the first 7 games of the season. So with that being said, I feel like Liberty can win every game remaining. They can also lose each of those games. I think the real answer will probably be somewhere in the middle. And hopefully Liberty's closer to that 5-0 mark in the last 5 than 500, around 3-2 or 2-3. Obviously, you have to win 3 of the 5 to get to bowl eligibility. If you win all 5, I think you'll be in a Conference USA championship game. If you go 4-1, you need some help. So it'll be interesting. But anyways, we'll get into that in more detail in a moment. But first, wanted to look back to Tuesday night. Liberty got off to that early start, was up 17-3, 20-6 there in the first half, and at halftime, on the back of mainly the special teams units, right? Like Juju Gray had that kick return for a touchdown that went 96 yards, I think it was. Liberty's first kick return for a score since 2022, and Shazer Lewis did it against Virginia Tech, game that Liberty lost. And then also that muffed punt New Mexico State had, Liberty recovered it, went down and scored a touchdown on that short field. That's 14 points there. Also got a field goal or 2 field goals in the first half to New Mexico State's 2 field goals. And you go in the locker room up 20-6, and I was kind of right there. Liberty got the ball to start the second half, and at the halftime break, of course, I got a lot of content that I try to get out quickly after the game, and I was kind of on the fence. Some games, at halftime, I start writing my game stories. You have a pretty good idea and feeling of what's going to happen, like against UTEP last week. I was into the story at halftime, but this game I was kind of on the fence. Like, well, let's wait and see what Liberty does this first drive of the second half, and then we can start writing. But and Liberty comes out and felt like it was on the brink of putting the game away and taking complete control of it and putting the Aggies away and seizing control and winning going away. And pick up a first down or 2, and then Vasco gets hit And the defender saw that it was a third down, so in the moment it's like, okay, you're just going to have to eat the ball or either chuck it out, get rid of it real quick for a quick incomplete pass, and just punt and live to face another day. You thought he would have seen that pressure coming from his front side, but I guess he was kind of turned the other direction, didn't see the defender, got hit, lost the ball. It was a turnover. New Mexico State takes advantage, scores a touchdown, and it's a new game. It's 20-13. And then Liberty's offense was pretty inept really a lot of the game, but certainly most of the second half, unable to sustain drives, unable to put points on the board, unable to squell the New Mexico State momentum that was building. So Liberty comes back out, has to punt. New Mexico State scores another touchdown, goes up or ties the game at 20 going into the fourth quarter. Vasco makes a terrible decision. Like, I knew at the moment, I'm sure most of you watching and those certainly in the stadium could tell when he let that ball go, it was a bad pass. Only bad things were going to happen. Thrown into triple coverage, kind of under, he had some room in the pocket. He put too much air under it. And there was a running back, if I recall correctly, in the flat that he could have dumped it off to, probably only going to pick up a couple yards, and he was obviously trying to make a play down the field. He probably could have also escaped the pocket and pick up a few yards, but trying to make a play, force the ball in there. I'm sure if he could have it back, he would have held onto that ball and not had that play. But he didn't do that. So interception. New Mexico State goes down. Scores its third straight touchdown to open the second half. Takes the lead 27-20. And they had all the momentum, and sitting there down by a touchdown. The offense hasn't done anything all second half and really much of the game. And you're like, man, I'm not sure if Liberty can figure this thing out and get back down there and tie the game or even take the lead. So, Liberty got the ball back and, had to punt. But another muffed punt, second muffed punt of the game for the Aggies, really spurred this team. Liberty recovered it down inside the 15-yard line, 13 or 14-yard line. And again, the offense couldn't do anything. Didn't even pick up a first down. Had to settle for another field goal, which kudos to Jay Billingsley. He's after a slow start to the season, he's been really good these past 3 or 4 weeks. And he was perfect on Tuesday night, made all 3 field goals, all 3 extra points. He knocked that field goal in. And some people were questioning. I was wondering myself, should the Flames go for it there? But, I mean, it was 4th and 5, and there's still, 7 or 8 minutes left in the game. And you need 2 scores to win, being down by 7. Obviously, the touchdown would tie it. But I thought it was the right decision just because the offense hadn't done anything to kick the field goal there. Obviously, you wanted the touchdown, but if it was 4th and 1, 4th and 2, you probably go for it. But a 4th and 5 or longer, you had to kick the field goal. I think it was the right decision, and obviously worked out. Make it 27-23. Then New Mexico State drives back down the field, gets down to the Liberty 39-yard line. It's 3rd and 5. And, I mean, I think it's like 4.5 minutes left, and then the clock is running. New Mexico State had some success running the ball throughout the night, which this is the team that was the worst team in the country in FBS in rushing, only averaging 50 yards a game. But they had some success, went over 100 yards in the game on the ground, first time this season. And if I'm them on 3rd and 5 at the 39, you're kind of in no man's land. You're not in field goal range. You don't really want to punt it from there because you're probably only going to pick up, 20 or so yards. Like I was thinking going into that 3rd down play, if I'm New Mexico State, I'm running the ball. You might pop it for 5+ yards and pick up the first down, and then you're taking another 2+ minutes off the clock or forcing Liberty to call their timeouts. Or worst case scenario, you pick up 2 or 3 yards. It's a 4th and 2, 4th and 3 at the 37, 36-yard line. You're probably willing to go for it on 4th down, but the Aggies chose to take a deep shot down the field, a 20+, 30-yard pass down the sideline that, those balls are 50-50 at best. And Liberty had good coverage. It goes incomplete. They kind of thought about it for a minute. You could tell hesitation, decided to punt it, which I thought was the right decision on a 4th and 5. They pin Liberty inside the 10-yard line. And you're thinking, if you're New Mexico State, you got less than 4 minutes left. And, Liberty has to score a touchdown to beat you, and they haven't proven that they could move the ball really all night. And now they got to go 92 yards, with the clock coming into play. But credit to Ethan Vasco staying in there, staying confident, kept believing. Shout out to the rest of the team. I mean, shout out to the play calling. Liberty did not panic. I felt like they were going too slow to start the drive, running the ball a couple of times with Dickens, picking up, 6 and 7 yards here and there, and some short passes. Dante Lee had either 4 or 5 catches on that drive. Vasco was a perfect 7 of 7 on the drive, and made good play calling again. Able to get down into the red zone. Under the 2-minute timeout with still multiple timeouts in your pocket, and really everything open to as far as run or pass, and the whole field. Whether you didn't have to get out of bounds, you had plenty of time. And then great play call. Got the ball to Evan Dickens there. I believe it was 1st and goal at the 8, and great run by him. Like he was, I think the call was to run it up the middle, but he bounced it outside, and there was no containment on the edge for New Mexico State. And it was a race to the pylon. He turned on the jets and beat the defenders into the end zone. Liberty takes the lead with 36 seconds left, and then coming out of that, it's 36 seconds left. Liberty got a personal foul penalty on Job Ingbergs. I'm not sure. I didn't see what he did, but they showed it on the jumbotron. I was kind of surprised they did that. Showed Coach Chadwell kind of, getting into his face a little bit about that penalty. So not sure what he did, but so Liberty had a kickoff from the 20-yard line. Mexico State still had a couple timeouts, and I think 2. And you're thinking, man, they might get the ball up near the 30 or 40-yard line and not needing but 20 to 30 yards to get into field goal range. But credit to Max Morgan, kicked the ball over the returner's head. It looked like the ball was going to stop inside the 5-yard line, and he was going to struggle to get the ball, but it did bounce into the end zone for the touchback. But a great play for Liberty's punter and kickoff specialist, Max Morgan, making them have to drive the field, and they did that. I remember specifically it was 10 seconds left. They were at maybe about the 40-yard line, their own 40-yard line, so they needed 20 to 30 yards to be able to, get into field goal range. And, Liberty played that press man-2 coverage with their corners playing man-to-man up on the receivers with the 2 high safeties. And I know Liberty plays a lot of man-to-man coverage, pretty much all the time. But I think in that moment, my thought when I saw them playing that coverage, I was like, that's not the right call. They should be backed off. Let New Mexico State get 10, 15, 20 yards, because they would still be outside of field goal range. And then you only got 2 plays at the most, so then they'd have to call a timeout, best case scenario, for a Hail Mary 40 plus yards, and you like your shots there a lot more than if they pick up 25, 30 plus yards. And then they can take that field goal, potential game-tying field goal. And that's exactly what happened. They were able to beat the Liberty defensive back inside on that kind of post/slant route over the middle of the field, picked up around 30 yards, set up that potential 47-yard field goal, which, as we know, was missed pretty badly wide left. So Liberty hangs on, but, you win the game, right? That's the most important thing. You play to win the game, as Herm Edwards says, right? So Liberty escaped with the win. It felt like a lot of the games last year where you were trying to do everything in your power to lose, but you still managed to find a way to win, and that's what happened. And sometimes that's what you got to do. So Liberty improves to 3-4 on the season, 2-1 in conference play, and like I said, now you got 2.5 weeks. Just over 2 weeks now as we're recording this, till you play again against Delaware. And meanwhile, several of the teams ahead of you or tied with you in the conference standings, they have to play, at least one game, if not 2 games, before Liberty even plays again. I mean, that's the case for Jacksonville State. Obviously, they played Wednesday night, so now it's just one more game they have to play. But Kennesaw, Louisiana Tech, I believe both of those teams still play twice before Liberty plays again, and Western Kentucky's got one more game to play. before Liberty plays again. So a lot of this is going to change over the next 2 weeks. But the way it currently stands, Jacksonville State 3-0 with that win over Delaware pretty comfortably, pretty handily. They look like they're in the driver's seat. Especially if you look at their schedule. I'm not sure. They could lose any game. Look at what happened to Sam Houston. They needed a last-second field goal to win 29-27. Obviously, Sam Houston's 0-7, 0-4 in conference play. Looking at Jack State's remaining schedule, they're at Middle Tennessee this coming week, at UTEP. Both of those teams are in the bottom of the standings, a combined 1-4 in conference play, 3-10 overall. You would think they would win that. Then their last three, they got Kennesaw at home, which we'll talk about the Owls in a minute. They're currently 2-0 in conference play, so that's not going to be an easy game. But playing them at home, you would like to think Jack State probably has the advantage there. Then they play at FIU, which they're 1-1 in conference play, and obviously came up off a big win over Western Kentucky Tuesday night. So that won't be easy. And then they get Western Kentucky at home. So those last three games, I could certainly see the Gamecocks going 2-1, maybe even 3-0. I wouldn't expect 1-2. I think they take care of business there. So I would kind of pencil them into the conference championship game today. And obviously they got the win over Liberty. So any head-to-head, if both teams are tied with one loss in conference standings, Jack State gets the nod due to the head-to-head win. So thanks Jack State, you can pretty much almost pencil them in. Yeah, they still got 5 games left, so anything can happen. But they're in good shape right now to get into the Conference USA Championship game. Then you look at the other unbeaten, Kennesaw State. It's been a surprise. But they're 4-2. Their losses were to Wake Forest and Indiana. They lost to Wake Forest 10-9 back in week 1, which you probably remember that game. It was either I think it was Friday night of week 1. They lost to Indiana, which they're a top 5, top 10 team. And then they got wins over Middle Tennessee, and then 35-7 over Louisiana Tech. Staking their claim that they're a real threat in this Conference USA race, and they certainly are. But if you look at their schedule, they got 6 games left, and they're tough, man. It starts this week at FIU. We just talked about what they did. FIU's 1-1 in conference play also, like we mentioned. That's not going to be an easy game. They get UTEP at home. They're at New Mexico State. So a lot of travel there. New Mexico State's a good team. I wouldn't be shocked if any of those 3 games go either way. Then they finish at Jack State, Missouri State at home, and at Liberty. If Kennesaw is going to get a conference championship game, they're going to earn it, right? Having to play at Liberty, at Jack State, at FIU, those are 3 games on the road against teams that are all, 1 loss or fewer in the conference standings currently. So Kennesaw's got their work cut out for them. If they are able to escape that, I would expect they lose at least 2 games, but I could be wrong. They could surprise us and end with 1 or even undefeated, which if they do that, they're likely in the conference championship game. Then the other 2 teams, there's 3 teams, Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, FIU, and then obviously Liberty, that all have 1 loss currently in the standings. Western Kentucky's 2-1 or 3-1. They still got to play last game of the year at Jack State. They also got at Louisiana Tech this coming week. That's a huge game, maybe an elimination game. The Bulldogs are 2-1. Western Kentucky's 3-1 in conference play. That's a huge game. Whoever gets 2 losses there going to have an uphill battle to get into conference play. But other than that, they got New Mexico State and Middle Tennessee at home, and then at Jack State. So if Western can take care of business at home, and then they got to win 2 games on the road or get a split to end up with 2 losses. So you feel like there's probably 2 losses on their schedule in conference play total. Then looking at Louisiana Tech, like I said, they got Western Kentucky at home. They got Sam Houston at home. They're at Delaware, at Missouri State, and then Liberty at home. Is there another loss there? I like to think there probably is. Louisiana Tech, that would put them at 2 losses. And then you got FIU, the other 1-loss team. They got Kennesaw at home, at Missouri State, at Middle Tennessee, Liberty and Jack State at home, and at Sam Houston. Now they do have a lot of teams at home, Kennesaw, Liberty, and Jack State, who are all competing at the top of the conference standings at home. But those aren't going to be easy games, and they're also at Missouri State, Won't be easy at Middle Tennessee, at Sam Houston also. So I would expect FIU to lose at least one more, if not a couple more. So there is a path, and I wouldn't be shocked, sitting here today, mid-October, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a two-loss team in the Conference USA standings. And if there is, it's probably multiple teams tied with two losses. Like I said, I think Jack State's kind of got the leg up right now. They look like they're most likely to get the conference championship game. Still a lot of football to play. Nobody's played only one team, two teams, Western Kentucky and Sam Houston, but one team that's in the mix has played 4 games. So everybody's got more than half of their conference schedule remaining. So a lot of football to play. I guess the main takeaway is this thing is wide open. Like, no, I don't think there's one team in Conference USA that's established themselves as the clear favorite. I mean, even Jacksonville State, yeah, they're 3-0, and I think they'll probably make the Conference USA championship game. But I mean, look what they did to Sam Houston. Look at some of their non-conference performances. Obviously Cam Cook's a heck of a running back. He was leading the nation in rushing entering this week. I'm not sure. We'll see if he hangs on to that lead. But they're one of the top rushing attacks in the country. He's one of the top running backs, certainly in Conference USA, probably the favorite for Conference Player of the Year on the offensive side of the ball. But even them, I don't think they're world beaters. Or we saw what Liberty did. If I remember correctly, where did Liberty have 3 turnovers in that game? And still probably could have / should have won, put up a ton of yards. Was Liberty over 500 yards of offense that game? Had at least one, if not 2 penalties called back, touchdowns called back due to penalties. So, I think they're beatable. And then, Kennesaw, Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, FIU. I mean, I think there's enough losses left. I mean, we went through it quickly. I mean, I think that very well, like if you have one loss or less, you're going to be in the Conference USA Championship game. I just don't see there being more than 2 teams with 1 or fewer losses. I could be wrong, but sitting here today, that's kind of my guess. And then, there very well could be multiple teams tied with 2 losses. So we would have to, get into those tiebreakers, which is way too many scenarios right now to even worry about that. But maybe once we get into November. But again, if you're Liberty, you have to take care of business. Like, none of this matters if you lose, right? If Liberty loses, 1 more game, they might be eliminated, with 2 conference losses. Tiebreakers would be tough. We'll have to see how that would all shake out. I mean, but Liberty, like I said early, like, Liberty could lose to Delaware. Wouldn't it shock me, right? They could lose at FIU, at Louisiana Tech. I mean, they could lose to Kennesaw. I mean, they could lose any game left on their schedule. I also think they could win any game left on their schedule. It's so, like, I really don't know. So, Liberty, you have to just focus on yourselves. Obviously, coach speak. Take care of business at hand. Win, improve each day. Win each day, as coaches say. And we'll see where the cards fall. But I think there's a path. We've said it all along. Despite that 1-4 start, there is a path that if Liberty can, and I think Liberty has the potential, to be the best team in this conference this season, right? I mean, again, we can talk about the big picture topics elsewhere. We've done that in our podcast. We'll do it at the end of the season, dive into it deeper. Yes, Liberty has taken a step back from where they were in 2020, 2022, 2023. Sure, 100% agree with that. And, there's concerns. There's things that need to be addressed. There's things that need to change. But in this season, in this vacuum of a season for 2025, like, there is a path for Liberty to get into the Conference USA Championship game. That loss by Western Kentucky the other night is huge. So we'll see. You go out and lose to Delaware at home, which I think is a possibility of happening. Then all this goes out the window. You lose that game, obviously, New Mexico State the other night. All this goes out the window, and we're moving on to basketball season for the most part. But you keep winning. You find a way to win. Keep your season, moving forward. You got bowl eligibility for a 7th straight season on the line. And like I said, also a chance. There is a chance. What I'd really like to see out of Liberty, you got 17 days to correct things and clean up things. Let's have a complete game against Delaware, right? Let's come out, play complete game, all all three phases, all four quarters. Special teams has looked really good these last 2 weeks. Defense was dominant against UTEP. They had some signs of good play against New Mexico State, but for the most part, would probably say subpar. And the offense has kind of been subpar most of the season. So turnovers, penalties, whatever the case may be, inconsistent play, bad decisions, bad passes, whatever the case may be, fumbles. So if Liberty can have a clean game, keep the penalties down, don't have any turnovers, force a couple turnovers on defense, have a strong defensive performance, have a strong special teams game. That's what this team needs to do. If they can do that, which they haven't all season, but if they can do that, that's something you got to work on, right? These 17 days, work on having a clean game, all three phases, four quarters. And, if Liberty does that, I feel like they can beat every team left on their schedule. But if they don't, if you have performances like they've had all season, then every game's going to come down to the fourth quarter. And it's a matter of making plays, and credit to the team for making the plays the other night, right? That 92-yard drive, nobody would have expected it based on what we'd seen up to that point in that game, the first, 55, 56 minutes of the game. But they proved it in the final minutes, got the job done, got the win, and they stay around. So stick around and see got a lot more content coming for you. Men's basketball's right around the season. Women's basketball's right around the season. We'll have plenty of coverage there. Also plenty of coverage leading up to this game against Delaware and in the bye week as well, too. Some mid-season report cards, mid-season recaps, things like that. See Red podcast will be back. Going back to our Tuesday schedule, week of the Delaware game. So last week of October, that Tuesday night, whatever the date is, we'll be back with another show that week. Also be on the lookout for the Sierra Red podcast. As we get into basketball, we'll have a show for you here prior to the season starting to preview the men's basketball season as Coach McKay and the Flames look to repeat as Conference USA champions, as well as Coach Sherrard takes over on the women's basketball side and looking to repeat there for the women's basketball season. Stay locked to SierraRed.com, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, leave comments below. Talk to you soon.